You are listening to AHRAZPod, a podcast by the Association of the Human Rights for the Azerbaijani People in Iran. I am Sina.
And I am Behzad.
We will be with you with the recent human rights violation reports for Azerbaijani people in Iran with our short informative podcasts. To get updates on human rights violations in Iran, please follow AHRAZ's social media accounts. You are listening to AHRAZPod.
Uşaqlarımız öz ana dillərində dərs oxusunlar. Və ta zamanı ki, dövlət bu işi görmüyübdü, bu ağır yük bizim də çiynlərimizə düşübdü.
Hello everyone. You just listened to Alireza Farshi talking about his responsibilities as a human rights activist to promote education in mother language in Iran. Today, in episode 7th of AHRAZPod, we are going to talk about the case of Alireza Farshi by focusing on the topic of the situation in the prisons of Iran. So, hi Behzad, and can you please briefly introduce Alireza Farshi to us, and then maybe we can move on to see why he was arrested, what were the evidences presented by the government, basically why he was, what happened to him.
Alireza is an Azerbaijani activist prisoner. His activities mainly include defending the civil rights of the Azerbaijani people in Iran, such as the right of getting education in the mother language for the ethnic groups in Iran. 70% of the population, they are deprived of their very basic right, including the rights of getting education in their mother language. He was first arrested in 2007 during a public event where he was carrying a placard and promoting the rights of getting education in the mother language of ethnic groups. In that time, Alireza was a university teacher. Apparently, the security forces and the Iranian intelligence office, they put pressure on this university and they forced them to fire Alireza after this arrestment. I remember well, in 2008 or 2009, he gets fired from this university. And after that, he got arrested several times on the matter of International Mother Language Day. And his last charge of 15 years of prison was based on evidences that I already mentioned. Plus, one of his activities includes distributing the kids' book among the Azerbaijani children in Iran. So every year, on the matter of International Mother Language Day, he was buying a kids' book with his own funds, with his own money, and he was distributing these books to the children. His main activity is just defending the language right of these ethnic groups, and he unfairly got charged of 15 years of prison. Later, he appealed this 15 years, and appeal court reduced that to 3 years plus 6 months in prison with additional 2 years of exile. So during this years, he experienced mistreatments from the security force. He got beaten during his latest arrestment. He got beaten on his eyes, and one of his eyes was injured severely. And actually, when he was in prison, he was at risk of losing his eyesight, and he was in serious need of medication for a long time, and the Iranian responsible authorities, they didn't provide him necessary medical care. These are just only the highlights of the difficulties he has faced in recent years, and these are only the ones that I remember right now. And
okay, thank you very much, Behzad. What is shocking for me regarding the background of Alireza Farshi is that he's one of the top elites of the society in Iran, due to the fact that he studied in one of the top-ranked universities of Sanati Sharif in Tehran. Studied computer sciences and computer engineering. And then he pursued a master's degree of the same major in Tehran University, which is another top university in Iran. It's not easy to get admitted to these universities at all. Getting graduated from these universities requires too much efforts as well. So he was one of those academic elites in the country, but surprisingly, as you mentioned as well, he got sacked from two universities, as far as I know, in Tabriz, and then after he started teaching in Ardabil, because of being so-called being unqualified or incompetent, which is most probably, as you said, happened because of the forces and pressure of the security forces to the management of these universities. And another point that is very surprising is that Alireza Farshi is one of those activists that he's not actually demanding beyond the Islamic Republic of Iran's constitution. So he's kind of asking for what is indicated in the constitution of Islamic Republic of Iran, Article 15 and other articles that are not executed. So his harassment, his mistreatment in the prison is kind of surprising, is very arbitrarily, is very sad. And we know that, his father is also a martyr, Iran-Iraq war. And that's also another issue that, Islamic Republic of Iran doesn't even care about those people who sacrificed their lives to save this country, to defend this country. So these were the points that was, I think, worth to mention in the process of explaining what was the background of Alireza Farshi. And go ahead.
I also want to add that Alireza several times in his talks, he mentioned that all of his activities, and we also, witnessed this, his activities does not violate Iranian laws. So all of his activities is based on Iranian constitution. So it is interesting that the Iranian judicial system, accused him with propaganda against the state.
And also, another accusation is national security offenses. Like, how come defending the articles written, clearly stated in the constitutional law of the country itself can be national security offense? That's also another matter that proves this case the harassment at least was arbitrary, and the whole trial was arbitrary. But our main topic today is the situation in Iran's prison. By looking at Alireza Farshi's case, how much he suffered in the prison. We know that he is right now in prison furlough. He granted a leave of absence from the prison due to the issue that he had with his eye. But I want you to explain the difficulties that he faced in the prison, and in general, what are the conditions in Iran's prison?
The last time he got arrested, during the arrestment, he got beaten by the security forces. And during the arrestment, apparently he gets a serious injury in one of his eyes. Mm-hmm. And during the imprisonment, he had no access to proper medication. He requested several times from the responsible authorities, but for a while they were rejecting his right of having access to a doctor or proper medication. He was in risk of losing his eyesight, but eventually pressure of public social media and the Azerbaijani activists, he got his rights eventually, and he is right now getting his medication, and he's getting his issues solved. During the imprisonment, he was suffering from lack of facilities for personal hygiene. In general, in Iranian prisons, the prisoners, they suffer from lack of facilities for personal hygiene. They also suffer from lack of sleep amenities. So he had a temporary leave from prison because of his medical situation. He goes back to his house, and he finds out that there was a robbery in his house.
It is. So, generally, as you said, the personal liberties, like an individual hygiene, due to the lack of the facilities, infrastructure within the Iranian prisons, is violated, and people are deprived of their basic individual liberties or hygiene or these kind of issues. And also regarding the medication, we know that it took nearly maybe about 1 year so that the government or the prison allows Alireza Farshi to take a prison furlough or leave of absence to get an eye surgery. The situation was very, very urgent, but they delayed it for 1 year. And as you said, most probably, maybe because of the pressures in the social media, like from outside, and his situation, extreme situation. Right now, they allowed him to have a prison furlough. So we know that Article 502 of Iran's Criminal Code of Procedure provides that whenever the convicted individual suffers from physical or mental illness, and the implementation of the prison sentence would make the illness go severe or delay the recovery, the judge should refer to the Legal Medicine Organization of Iran and postpone the implementation until the time of recovery. In the case of Alireza Farshi, we can see that Article 502 is partially implemented because right now he has the leave of absence. We know that he had a successful eye surgery, but the issue is that they delayed this leave of absence for 1 year, which could have actually led to disastrous situations because losing the eyesight could be disastrous, I think. So as we talked about the infrastructure, we also know that he is not comfortable even in the leave, in the process of furlough, because of the electronic tagging. Do you want to talk about that? Like add anything about the electronic tagging?
Yes, actually, I heard Sina that he's in temporary leave, and he has a tag in one of his legs. He's suffering from this. This tag is not working properly. It loses it needs to be charged like frequently, and if the battery is low, it keeps vibrating, and in most of the nights he cannot sleep because of the vibration.
I see.
And the responsible authorities, they do not provide him a proper tag, at least. That's interesting that they let him for temporary leave, but he's still suffering from this kind of mismanagement.
Yeah, and this surveillance tags, electronic tags, as I know, they're not being, as you said, they don't provide additional parts, because I also heard that the charger gets exploded at some point, because he faced several times with this explosion of the charger while the device, the electronic tag and shackle in his leg got exploded, the charger got exploded, and he should pay himself to go and find the charger, to find the parts of that charger. And that's also very interesting. When you don't have enough infrastructure within the prison and for the surveillance outside the prison, then why they are forcing a peaceful human rights activist who's not a criminal, who's not a murderer, who's not a dangerous criminal, to be surveilled, to be watched with electronic tagging? That's also another very shocking point that you brought up. So we see that not only in the prison, but also in the leave of absence outside the prison. The situation of Iranian prisoners is dramatically sad and unacceptable according to the laws and regulations of Iranian government and also the international laws for the prisoners. Thank you very much, Behzad, for being with us today. And please share our podcast if you liked it, and put your comments and suggestions below the posts that we are sharing this podcast. We believe that without respect for human rights and freedom of nations, peace cannot be achieved.